I was my first day as a manager, and we had lunch, and she pulled out all the personnel files and told me all the things that I needed to know about the team, which, I mean, these were people I worked with, and I had no idea that some of the stuff was going on. And she's like, of course, all this is confidential. And then she said to me, and I have thought about this probably every week, at least once since she has said it. And she said, well, congratulations, Jason. You are now the topic of conversation at 17 different dinner tables around the country. How do you want those conversations to sound?
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Aaron, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom, because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world, but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Hi, my friend, it's Erin, and I'm here just to introduce another amazing interview I just did with Jason Barnaby. Oh, you're going to love this. Sometimes we have people on that have really great, powerful things to say. Sometimes we have people on that just have a soothing nature about them. Today, you're going to get both. He will both probably light you up, but also just calm you down. And so Jason is what he calls the chief fire starter and tribe leader of Firestarters, Inc., which is a company that he founded. He does keynotes. He works with leadership groups through a program he calls 30 Days to Blaze for leaders. I love that. And he's also an executive coach. He's also the author of 2 books, one of them called Igniting the Fire Starter Within. And then he has a journaling workbook called 30 Days to Blaze Journaling Workbook, which I think is so cool. And Jason has just a great background, great humility, and great stories that I think you will laugh with, you will have aha moments, and we will hopefully free you of the fire that is dimming and light a fire under you. So without further ado, enjoy this interview with Jason Barnaby. First thing I want to start with is I realized that you actually literally lived out what is my recurring stress dream. I don't know if you have a recurring stress dream. I think most people do, like that dream that comes up where you can't like get somewhere. And so my recurring stress dream is that I realize I haven't finished college and I have to go back. Tell us how you live that out, and I'll try not to break out in hives. That
my
gosh. Actually, need to double check, that I have my master's degree on the wall, but I got to make sure I have my undergrad.
Yeah. So I was the only, I am the only kid in my family who's graduated from college. My parents weren't a ton of help, unfortunately, in that regard. And I enjoyed college so much that for 2 semesters, I was invited not to come back because I was on academic probation for 2 semesters. I blame that on 3 things. One is ultimate frisbee. There's a game here in Indiana that we play called euchre.
I'm from Michigan.
Okay.
I'm from Michigan. I grew up playing euchre. Yeah.
So spades if you don't play euchre, and then anybody who needed somebody to run with them to the border, aka Taco Bell at 2:00 in the morning, I was down.
You were it.
But so I got to the end of my senior year. I walked, like I dressed in the cap and gown and did the whole thing. But I had 18 credits to finish the summer after my senior year. So I did 2 summer sessions of 9 credits each, which is insane. Got the best grades that I ever got because I was super stressed and had no time, and all my friends were gone. So there was no more euchre or ultimate frisbee. Well, then I promptly moved to Colorado to fulfill my lifelong dream that I had had since I was 13, which was to be a ski bum in Colorado. That summer, my parents also moved from the house that I had grown up in my entire life. And so I didn't leave a forwarding address because I didn't know where I was going. And I didn't even honestly know where they lived. I had to call them when I left college and say, where do you live now? Because I hadn't been to their new house. And so fast forward, several years later, I lived overseas and I had to get a copy of my transcript. So I was in Indianapolis and I went to the university and I asked them for a copy of my transcripts. And then I said, and by the way, I never got my diploma. And the lady goes, well, that's weird. And she goes, what's your, and back in the day when I was in school, my student ID was my social security number that you just yelled out into the ether for everybody to hear. Right. So I'm like, she's like, well, what are the last four? At least they've gotten it to that now. And so I gave it to her and she's clicking away on her thing. And she goes, huh, which is not what you want to hear when you're trying to figure out what happened to your diploma. And I said, I don't like the sound of that. She goes, no, hold on, it's fine. And, she does some more and she goes, oh, again, not what you want to hear when you're trying to find your diploma. And I'm like, could you please stop making those noises and just tell me what's going on? And she said, well, you didn't register to graduate. And I was like, I don't even know what I understand the individual words that you said, but I don't understand those as a whole phrase. What does I don't even know that's a thing. And I'm just now finding
trademarked?
Out. Right. Like what the hell? And she's like, yeah, she said, so here's the deal. You have to, and it was like the fall of that year. And she said, you have to pay that. You have to sign this paper and pay this fee. It's $50. And if you don't do this by the end of the year, you will have to audit your diploma and you'll have to take 2 undergrad courses.
Oh, my dream.
Validate your diploma to update it to get it. And I was like, I'll pay you $500 right now. And she's like, no, just 50, but you have to, do the thing. So I said, all right. So I did that. I graduated. Well, Aaron, in my mind, I graduated from IU in 1993. That's when I stopped going to classes, the summer of 93. Okay. Here's a fun fact for any of you parents out there who have kids who are going to college. Make sure they sign this paper because, fun fact, the year you register to graduate is the year that goes on your diploma. So though I finished in 1993, fast forward, I go back to Poland. I was living in Poland at the time. I go back to Poland and I get this gigantic envelope in the mail. I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, oh, it's my diploma. I open it up and it says fall of 1999. Apparently I was on the 10-year plan and didn't even know it. So I tell everybody I know who has a senior in college, I'm like, have you made sure that they registered to graduate? They're like, that's a thing. I'm like, oh, trust me. Trust me, it's a thing.
I know you have a bigger life mission, but it seems kind of like it should be life mission, like part 2 for you, which is to make sure nobody else misses.
Because seriously, I mean, if it didn't work out that way for me to be back and get my transcripts, because I didn't live here at the time, right? I had thought about the diploma multiple times, but if I would have done that 3 months later, yeah, how about going back in 2 more undergrad classes 10 years after, like 12 years after I'm out of college? Are you kidding me?
Right. Or it could have been, it could have been 20 years later when you're filling out some employment background check BS that needs to know,
So I can understand how that's a recurring nightmare for you. Clearly it was a nightmare for me. I just didn't realize I was being chased by it until that fateful day when I went to the registrar's office.
Oh, it's such a great story. I love it. And then I see, from there, you sort of went kind of the teaching route in different ways. Yeah. You mentioned being overseas. You mentioned you also spent some time in corporate, especially on the training side. How was that what your degree was in, or
no,
sort of where did the sort of teaching training side of you?
Yeah. So I have been in leadership since I was in 8th grade. And I know people will be like, whatever, but I ran for student body president when I was in 8th grade. I won. It's where I also fell in love with speaking because I made people laugh and they clapped and it was awesome. Like I said, my parents didn't go to college. They weren't a ton of help with the whole figuring it out. I went to Indiana University, which is a massive school, and I was an undeclared major, I think, for the first semester. And what I realized when I said, I went to my counseling session, I said, I think I like psychology. And she's like, so you want to be a psych major? All she wanted to do was get me off her books into somebody else's lane. I didn't know that at the time. So I was like, oh yeah, psychology sounds great. Well, I was a psych major second semester of my junior year, we had a case study deal where they presented these cases, and nobody on the stage of all these experts could agree what was wrong with this person or how to treat them. And I was like, this is my degree. I don't want to do this. I also didn't know that I would have to go to grad school if I wanted to do anything besides either sit in administration or change bedpans. And I'm like, I wasn't a great undergrad student, so I don't like grad school. Are you kidding me? So
it's funny, just a quick, so I was a math major. I went to Western Michigan University for my undergrad, and but you had to take one of those classes, right?
Yeah.
Psych or soc, just sort of your core.
Right.
And at the time, now I'm much more into sort of that kind of stuff, right? As you are as well. But at the time I was like very black and white. I'm a math major. And so I remember taking sociology, and I think it was like class 2 or 3. And I was just like, you should just open up this book to the middle and it should just say shit happens. Like I didn't understand why we needed to know why shit happened.
Yes.
But it's amazing how, you get so pigeonholed and into thinking too, that degree, which ultimately probably wouldn't have been what you wanted, but it also, I'm sure, has really shaped, something.
100%. Mm-hmm. And as I look back, I think a lot of leadership, if you do it, and I didn't realize I was doing it right or doing it well, but I think a lot of leadership is teaching and mentoring and training and bringing people along. So I've always done that. And I have my wife to thank for going back to school to get into education, because she had a degree in education. And then we had a really phenomenal opportunity to do a master's degree while we lived in Poland we both got our master's, but it was from a St. Michael's College in Vermont. And we got such a deal that we had to sign I think I can say this now, enough years have passed, but we had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, confidentiality agreement, that we would not tell people what they were charging us because it was so cheap.
Wow.
And so I got into that, and that's when I realized, like, whoa, I love standing in front of people. And I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but one of my dreams is to do like an improv night, to do a stand-up show. And so I would try my material out on my students, which I'm like, you got to be here for 50 minutes. I'm going to give you the things I want you to know. So I got into that and wound up in a great, where we lived. It was just kind of serendipitous that all these things came together. But I lived in southern Poland, and at the time was really the heyday of this private university in southern Poland that also had an agreement with National Louis University in Chicago that you could get a master's degree with. And I taught there for 5 years and absolutely loved it. Absolutely. I mean, I'm still in touch with probably close to 100 of my students from that time that have gone on. Some of them now live in the States. Some of them live all over Europe. I fell in love with really the thing that I say, and it can be teaching, it can be speaking, it can be coaching. I found that thing in all of those, and that is to what I call facilitate an aha moment. And I'm sure that you've had these when you work with people, right? And what I find typically too is that it's the thing that I feel like everybody knows that's the aha moment, or it's at least the thing that I feel like I've said 1,000 times. And I'm almost like, do I even want to say this thing again? Like, I feel it's so old and so tired and so worn out. And you say it and people's eyes light up and they make connections. They see, they're like, ooh, well, and you just, I can't explain it any other than like the expression on their face and the look in their eyes. And they have this aha moment where they get it, and you have been a conduit or some sort of part of that experience. And if I could put that in a pill form and take it every day, that would be my drug of choice, because there is I haven't found anything better than that. It's amazing.
Well, and I love what you said. It's about facilitating the aha moment because it's different for everyone. What's maybe not a fair question, but what's the most memorable aha moment that somebody you've impacted has had?
Ooh, wow. I've never been asked that question before. So, you know what? I'm actually going to flip it because it wasn't one that I had for me. It was one that somebody had on me.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And it was my second boss in the corporate world. Shout out to Sherry Christopher. I always feel like when I do these things and I say people's names out loud, that somehow they feel it when it gets broadcast. So I'm just going to put it out there. We're still friends. She's amazing. I had my first management job. I took over a team that I was a part of, and I went from being an independent contributor to a manager of, I think there were 17 people on the team here in the city and across the country. It was a big deal, and we were growing like crazy. And so we had lunch. It was my first day as a manager, and we had lunch, and she pulled out all the personnel files and told me all the things that I needed to know about the team, which, I mean, these were people I worked with, and I had no idea that some of the stuff was going on. And she's like, of course, all this is confidential. And then she said to me, and I have thought about this probably every week, at least once since she has said it. And she said, well, congratulations, Jason. You are now the topic of conversation at 17 different dinner tables around the country. How do you want those conversations to sound? And I will tell you, Erin, for me, like in that moment, I had a flash of all of the times, like, you know, like the movie that runs in your brain of all the times that you've come home and like bitched and moaned about what your boss did or didn't do, said or didn't say, kudos given or not given, assignment that you got or didn't get, right? Like that was the topic of dinner time conversation. And for me, it was that like, wow. And the impact and the ripple effect that we have with our words and our actions, and her call to me to be incredibly intentional about that. It changed my life.
I love that. What do you think is the biggest thing that it impacted? What did you tangibly do different as a leader after hearing that and thinking about that?
I would, in thinking about strategy and thinking about decisions and thinking about work assignments, instead of looking at it from it being something simply that went out from me and that's kind of where it ended. Like, yep, there's the, you know, get it out, do the thing, right?
Yep.
Send the letters, do the whatever, hit the send button. It was, okay, you're going to have this conversation with this person. You're going to give them this assignment. Look at it from how they are looking at it, how you think that they would look at it. And then that has caused me to be curious, because my expectations, I know what my expectations are, right? But I don't know if they understand the expectations that I have. I don't know if they see it in the same way that I see it. I don't know what questions, I know what questions I would have, but I don't know what questions they're going to have. And I find so often in business and in life, we put these things out in the world and assume because we think of it a particular way that those people are going to see it that way. And we never have the conversation about, is there a disconnect? Do you see it the same way I do? Do you have questions about this? We don't pause. And that phrase from her has caused me to pause. I don't want to say every time because I'm not batting 1,000, but has made me pause multiple times. And I will tell you, like, I've been thinking like, I'm going to say this, this, and this. And then I pause and think about like, well, how are they going to see that? How are they going to hear it? And I pivot. It causes a change in what I would say or what I would do. And it also forces me to take, and leave space for questions and interpretation, which before I would not have done.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of one of my leadership coach I worked with. You know, she would say, communication is the response you get back.
Ooh,
and you know, it's sort of
writing that down.
Yeah, it's so right. It's very similar though, that it's not a one-way street. And actually, as you think about defining what you communicate, it's not about what went out, but it's about what, like you said, was interpreted and sort of how it came back. If you even allowed it to come back, maybe that's metaphorically, because you didn't even allow the communication to come back.
And how many people listening to this have worked for bosses who don't wait to hear it come back, right? It's just go do it. This is it. We're not discussing. You're just going to go do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're
I
left
love
with
that.
more questions than answers, but nowhere to ask the questions.
Yeah, I love that. So now you've taken all this training energy as both an educator as well as a leader, somebody
Yeah.
that gets it. You're not just the, academic that
Right.
studies leadership.
Right.
And now you're focused really on lighting the fire within people and how do they get to really fulfill who they are.
Yes.
And so I want to talk about that. Obviously that's somewhat sort of hand in hand with burnout. And as you probably know, our audience is, we always say we welcome all, but we design this specifically for Gen X women who are bought into corporate. But they're sort of burnt out and fed up with the BS and they want to do things.
There's a lot of it
differently. So I guess the first question, we've talked about burnout before. It's sort of this elusive unicorn, but I love the way you sort of give the 3 signs of burnout. And then the 3, I think you have practical things you can do. And then let's dive into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So I use when I wrote my first book, Igniting the Fire Starter Within, I had not planned on including a firefighter, but I wanted to know about fire. So I went and interviewed him at the firehouse and he said, well, according to the fire triangle. And I was like, what is that? He goes, you're writing a book about fire and you don't know what the fire triangle is? I was like,
poser.
No. I'm like, yeah, I am a poser. That's why I'm talking to you. So you can make me smarter. So he said, for a fire to happen, you need a heat source, you need oxygen, and you need fuel. And if you don't have those 3 things, and for anybody who remembers the movie Backdraft, that was Ron Howard's big movie back I think in the 80s. It was that whole movie was about the fire triangle and about something not being present from that. And so I've taken that and I use that a lot to use different demonstrations and different models. So the fire triangle of burnout is that the things that the people tell us to look for, the experts tell us to look for, are really 3 things. One is loss of energy, not to the point of depression, like you can't get out of bed, but like, man, getting out of bed is the struggle. And what I say is there used to be a commercial, I think it was, that had the phrase, your get up and go has got up and went. So if you feel like your get up and go has got up and went, that's the first piece. The second piece is just a cynicism about everything in life. You're negative Nelly and Nick about everything. Like, I remember when we were, I think at that time, sort of as a country and as a world coming out of COVID. And I was talking to somebody who was definitely in this triangle of burnout. And I said, well, it looks like we're coming out of COVID and that's great. And they said, yeah, but freaking monkeypox. And that and it was like the next thing. And I was like, okay. And then the third is that especially at work, the work product starts to suffer, and that can look different for different people, but typically it looks like one or a combination of these: ghosting, missing deadlines, not showing up to meetings, not responding to emails, coming to a meeting where you used to turn on your camera and not turning on your camera. And so when you have those, and it's really the combination of those 3. And if you are experiencing those 3, and by the way, last year when I was doing a lot of these talks on burnout, I had leaders for the first time coming up after my talks and saying, Jason, for the first time ever, I'm seeing me in your slides. I'm not just seeing my people.
That's usually what they see first, right? It's hard not to see yourself first.
Yeah.
And it's hard to lead if you're the one seeing yourself.
Oh my gosh. So what I do is I say, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write, and people can follow along and do this as they're listening. Put 3 triangles on a piece of paper. Because what the experts say you need to do is you need 3 things in your life to overcome this burnout. One is mental fitness. So are you, how are you in your head? What's your headspace look like? Second is self-care, which there can be some overlap in those, right? And then third, and I talk a lot about, one of my favorite quotes is by a guy named Jim Rohn that says, we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, right? So I talk about your tribe. Who are you surrounding yourself with? So that third triangle is time with your tribe. So what does that look like? So I tell people, you make 3 triangles, mental fitness goes in one, self-care goes in the middle of the next, and time with tribe goes in the third. And on each side of the triangle, for each of those things, you put an activity. And the key to this, because I find that people, when we make goals, like, we don't make goals like, I want to drink an extra glass of water today. We say, I'm going to drink 3 gallons of water tomorrow. Well, that's stupid, because we haven't drunk 3 gallons of water ever in our lives. And suddenly tomorrow we're going to drink 3 gallons. We're not going to drink 3 gallons, but could you drink an extra gallon or an extra glass? Sure. So you do those, you write down those 3 things. And what I love is, if you, even for somebody who's a really good friend of yours, your 3 triangles are going to look very different than their 3 triangles. But then the key is, so you've taken it out of your head and put it on paper, which experts say our likelihood of success goes up to like 45% when we write it down. When we invite somebody else into the process with us, I don't like the word accountability, so I'm going to say invite people in for support. That likelihood goes up to 65% that we're going to do those things. So sharing that with somebody, put it on your refrigerator, make it your lock screen on your phone, put it on your computer, put a Post-it note around your screen, but don't just write it down and move on. And then when you drink the extra glass of water today or tomorrow, do a little happy dance in the kitchen, right? Like, celebrate the things that you've done. Because if we don't celebrate them, it's not a big deal, and we don't treat it like a big deal. And if we don't treat it like a big deal, then it's not, and we don't pay attention to it. And then we're back to where we were in 2 months doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah. How can leaders, I go back to my corporate days and relating with our audience so much, right? I call it sucky song. I think you call it the what if abouts, right? That start to go through our head is, but ain't nobody got time for that. I'm in 12 meetings a day. And so and obviously accountability, I know you don't like that word, but
that's all right.
Comes down to yourself. But if you're in a leadership position, what are some practical things you can do to that person that says, hey, first I see myself, I need to do it, but I also am responsible for inspiring my team to be able to, find the space, the solutions, et cetera, to be able to execute on these triangles. What advice do you have for the leaders that can, so they can help themselves and their teams when the what if about is, ain't nobody got time for that?
And I would say, if I had, so I'm going to answer that in 2 different ways. One is, if you say you don't have time for that, how has it been going for you so far? Because my guess is not good, right? If you're in 12 meetings a day, which I was part of that same culture. So first of all, recognizing, if you're saying ain't nobody got time for that, but it's not going well, number one, start very small. Start very small with, instead of saying, I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning and you normally wake up at 7, can you wake up at 6:45, right? Something small, again, that's attainable and easy and that can be easily celebrated. Secondly, share that vulnerably with your team, because I guarantee you that when you do, the what if abouts and the shitty song in your head are going to say, you're the only one. Nobody else believes that. Nobody else is dealing with that. It's only you. You're the loser. When you share that with your team, I guarantee you that there will be people around the table that will go, oh my gosh, me too. Yeah, I'm struggling with that too. I'm so glad you said that. Thank you for opening. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for encouraging me. I thought I'm the only one that's dealing with this. And I just find that if you've got 5 people that are sitting around the table and you get to a place of vulnerability and trust that you can share, you will hear me too more than you don't. Because the biggest thing I think that plagues leaders, and I deal with this all the time in my coaching, is that they have gotten to a place where they think they are the only one. And when you feel like you're the only one, you don't want to get up and announce that from a place of prominence and say that this is, you feel terrible, you feel vulnerable, you feel isolated, you feel worthless, you feel bad.
Yeah.
But yet, when we say it, and I see it all the time, people will go, oh my gosh, me too. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And I believe that if you really want to be an authentic leader, that vulnerability piece and that honesty with people, they need that more than they need to hear that you have woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning and pushed through it every day. And that's BS.
I agree.
Because you need a break. We all need a break. And if the people at the top can start saying it, then it trickles down through the rest of the culture as well.
Right. Right. And sort of tell people, don't do it for yourself, do it for your team first. Like,
right.
Give their self that compassion so they can give to others. Kind of playing off that, one of the things I found interesting that you've talked about was this concept of that, with these what if abouts, these sucky songs that you can consume like 4,000 words. Oh, I love your dog.
Yeah. I talk about branding all the time, and this is Blaze. Come here. That's Blaze.
Blaze, of course.
Of course.
Totally on
and
brand.
Had I thought about it, I would have bought him with company money and used it as a tax write-off. But I didn't, right? As our official mascot. This means likely that my wife has gone somewhere else because he is my wife's dog. So, I mean, he's mine when she's not around, and that must mean that she stepped out somewhere. That's why he keeps it.
That's awesome. I love it. It's like squirrel, only dog.
Yes.
So this concept of 4,000 words, and then that it takes, I think, 5 times to offset. Talk a little bit about that, and then maybe even I love this 5 by 5 plus 1, I think you call it, which seems like a great one of the ways that you can offset those words.
Thank you for asking about that. It's one of my, so I've been in therapy for now 2.5 years, and I started on an Enneagram journey 7 years ago. And so a lot of self-reflection, self-awareness, looking inside, that sort of stuff. And
what numbers?
I am a 7 wing 8.
I am exactly the same.
It doesn't surprise me based on what we do.
Yep.
Love to find the other 7s. We're all about quick sidetrack. Have you heard the song by the guy Sleeping at Last about the 7? Okay. No. So Google Sleeping at Last Enneagram. He wrote an entire album, one song about every number. You will love this. So on the 7, so he has a podcast and he plays the song and he breaks the song down. And he also, he breaks the song down and he interviews a 7, but he had only 7s play on the song for the 7. I don't know if he did that on all the other songs or not, but he also asked all of his 7 friends to record funny sounds or things that they think would be cool to have in a song. My favorite of all, because it's just such a 7 thing, is that some it's kind of gross, but it's also, I think, hilarious. Somebody recorded themselves peeing in the shower.
Oh my God.
And somewhere like in the background of the song, you hear like water falling because it's in the shower. And he says that it's the person peeing in the shower, which I think is just fantastic. But anyway, look it up. It's a great thing. So the 4,000 words. And when I say that up in front of people that they have proven that we can talk to ourselves at up to 4,000 words a minute, I say, okay, I know some of you are skeptics in the audience and you're like, that seems like a lot. Even if let's cut it even more than in half. Let's say it's 1,000 words a minute, right? There's this idea, it's called the Teflon and Velcro effect. And basically what they say is the brain is more like Velcro to negative things and more like Teflon for positive things. So another piece of that study is that 80% of the thoughts that we think are typically negative thoughts. And the research says that the average person thinks between 15 and 60,000 thoughts a day. I tell people I have ADHD and I think about 100,000 thoughts a day, likely. So of whatever that number of thoughts is, 80% of those are negative. 95% of those are repetitive thoughts. And so this Teflon Velcro effect says that we need anywhere from 3 to 5 positive things said to us to undo a negative thing.
Oh, it's crazy.
So you're a math person, right? As you're thinking about these, like that 80% of negative of the 1,000 is what? 800 thoughts, 800 negative thoughts. we need 3 to 5 positive thoughts to outdo those negative ones that we've had. And that's just in 1 minute, Aaron.
Right. So we have to like 2,400 to whatever, 30
It's insane.
Yeah. And we need help. We need
oh
help
my
getting
gosh,
those positive ones out.
So badly. And the thing that I challenge people to do is I think as I ask them to think, like, if you're picture yourself, you're on your way out of the door, you're going to work, you're going to a meeting, you grab your coffee, and literally as you turn the handle to walk out to get into your car, the coffee cup falls on the floor and busts, and you get, coffee sprays everywhere. In that moment, what are you saying to yourself? It's not like, it's like idiot, dumbass, klutz. Like
days ruined.
You always do this. You're all like, oh, here's one again. More, right? Here we go again. And so, and as I became aware of what my own negative self-talk loop was, it was like, oh my gosh. And what's interesting, my dad's 82, and I did a construction job with my dad earlier this year. He's going to die with a tool in his hand because he's just one of those people that's never going to stop working.
Yeah.
But I was listening because I've been in therapy and stuff. I'm more aware of how I talk to myself. And let me tell you, the stuff that he said, I'm like, oh my gosh, I say the exact same things. And where did I learn it? I learned it listening to him. And he's not even aware. I haven't had the conversation with him yet about like, hey Dad, have you thought about looking at the way you talk to yourself? We're going to, but
good for you.
It's amazing how I've learned it and how much it's been there just forever. So a great way that I've found to help break this cycle is that you choose, so it's called 5 by 5 plus 1. You choose 5 people in your tribe, people that you trust. So this has to be people that you trust and you feel comfortable getting feedback from and who know you well enough to give you good feedback. So you choose 5 people, and you can actually do this 2 different ways. If you want something to work on, if you want a piece of this to be an area that you have for growth, you can include that. If you just want it to be positive things, you can do that too. So you choose the 5 people. They give you 5 words. So let's say that these are just all 5 positive words. They're going to give you 5 words that describe you that are all positive, but they have to give you 2 to 3 sentences with some context. So if they say you're tenacious, or you're hilarious, or you're dedicated, they need to, like, because I saw you do it here, or when I think about when you did this or that. So there's context to it, right? So you understand where they're coming from. They do that with each of those 5 words. The +1 is the most important, and it's the key to all of this. The +1 is you. And you are not allowed to ask for feedback from anybody else until you do this first for yourself. Because what I found when I used to not require people to do themselves first is that they would read everybody else's, and then they would let that inform their words.
Yeah.
And so you do it yourself. They give you those 5 words. And so what happens, you get, if we're talking about all positives, you get a list of 30 words from people that you know and trust, including yourself, that are overwhelmingly positive. When is the last time you ever had a list of 30 words of 3 words that say, this is why I think you're awesome? And these are from people who love you, who care about you, who know you, who can speak truth because they've seen you in your life. And you have a list of 30 words. And then what you do from those words is you look at words that you expected to get. So for me, if I asked for that and people didn't respond saying, at least a couple people said like your passion and your drive and your energy, I would be like, something's off with Jason, because I get those all the time. But you will also get words where you will go, I didn't know anybody noticed that. Right. And so that's like a hidden talent, or a talent that you've kind of kept under a lid that needs to be brought out. And because people are recognizing it. And then I tell people, make a lock screen on your phone with those 30 words. Choose 5 of them and put those up on your mirror. And then in a month, choose 5 more and put those up, and cycle through it. And if you want to make this a thing where you can have an area of growth, then one of those words, one of the 5, needs to be an area of opportunity for growth for you. And I'll just say this right now. If anybody's going to do this, if you decide to do the second one, you're going to get the words back and you're going to go right to the words for area of growth and opportunity, because we are drawn to the negative. We're drawn to the negative. I'm putting that in air quotes. We're drawn to the Velcro. But here's what's interesting. In all the people that I've done this with, when I ask when we're going through the list, I'll say, are you surprised by the area of growth words? No. They're never surprised. It's the thing that you've known your whole life. I had one guy who said, I've known this for 35 years. I guess it's time for me to start doing something about it. I was like, yeah, you think?
Yeah.
And what happens is they're basically giving, and here's the other thing. It's very often synonyms for the same thing.
Yeah.
So I've never had anybody do this where they get like 5 very different things that they need to work on. It's 5 words for basically the same thing.
Same thing. Have you ever seen this? We did an episode, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 episodes ago about just basically the performance evaluation process and how shitty it is, and some thoughts about how to do it. Have you ever had somebody incorporate this exercise into their performance evaluation process?
I've actually told people that if you are a Smile Sheets once a year performance review, giving 1 through 5, and in parentheses, we don't give 5s. Such bullshit. Then why do you have the 5? Like, I'm not even going to jump on that soapbox. Yes, I have. And because then here's what happens. You are self-identifying an area that you know that you're not strong and you want to grow in. You have other people on your team, because I have them do it with those 5 people would be people on your team plus your immediate boss. And then, to the Strengths Finder thing, we've got all kinds of things that you do great. So we're going to focus on those. And here's this one thing that you even agree is an area that you need to work on. So this is going to become one of our areas of focus over the next quarter. And I'm going to check in on you during our one-on-ones. And Aaron, I've had one client who has agreed to do that. And they have said that the level of conversation and honesty in the one-on-one meetings, something that's never happened before, because it's an open dialogue, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that you've put out there as well. So you don't feel like it's imposed upon you. You also agree with it. And we're balancing that with, okay, here's the thing to work on, but here's where you're a rock star. And how can we give you more projects and more things to do where you're working in these things?
Yeah. I also just love the simplicity of it, right? Because at the big corporations too, usually you've spent, 3 hours filling out all your objectives and bullets. And so I love the simplicity that you sort of feel more human probably when you're doing this, both as a leader and as the sort of employee that's participating.
Yes. And also, for those of us who've had to sit on the other side of the stupid review, or worse, be the one who gives the review, there's typically very little training that goes into that. So it's so uncomfortable. I remember the ones that I had, I was like, I just said to my boss, I'm like, can we not do it this way? Can we do it another way? Because you're uncomfortable giving me this feedback. Right. I'm uncomfortable getting it. And by the way, probably nothing's going to come of it anyway.
Right.
So can we use the time that we have on the calendar for this meeting for something that's actually going to be meaningful?
Nicole, what are you doing over there? I'm finally getting up off the virtual couch and making some career moves, just like you told me. And I came across your Authenticity Playbook. Yeah, I forgot to tell you about it. This Authenticity Playbook I've had for a long time, and it's actually the most downloaded resource I have. It's basically 10 quote unquote plays, authenticity plays that you can make at work to stand out and get promoted and use authenticity as your strategy, your secret weapon. I'm really going to take this to heart, because despite all the sports references, I know that it's full of your awesome and your authenticity. And it probably is going to help me go far, or go home, or go big, or whatever the sports reference is. All the things. So listeners, if you also want the Authenticity Playbook, you can go to beauthenticinc.com/playbook. And you can make career moves like Nicole. Whoop, whoop, Heisman!
So I have one final question, but before we do that, where can people follow you and
Thank you.
Fired up by you?
Oh yeah. So I will say, I'm a solopreneur. I'm an army of one. I would love to be on all the socials. I'm not. I've had a Twitter handle for a while. I feel like a kid with a drone that doesn't really know what he's doing. So, sometimes people tweet
Not
at me
really
when
the
I'm
place to be these days
yeah,
anyway.
no. I don't have. I don't think I'm ever going to be the TikTok guy. It's just another platform to learn. I spend a lot of time and put a lot of content on LinkedIn, so that's the best place to follow me. I will put some other things, some longer stuff on Instagram. So on LinkedIn, you can just look up my name. On Instagram, it's Firestarters Inc. is where you can find me, and those are the two places I spend most time.
I love it. And I know we were connected on what I call my favorite dating app, LinkedIn, quote unquote dating, because we're both happily married, but
that's right.
Through Maury, and
yes,
she's great. And I think the orange was part of the connection, but obviously you have a lot in common. So I love it. I want to leave people with, there's something that you said you do that's so stupid simple, which are my favorite things.
Yes.
That almost reminds me of, cleaning out your closet you should, you probably do it less often than you should, but it's sort of this concept of like taking out the old clothes, making room for the new. But you do this with your social media and your following. And it was so stupid simple, but I was like, oh God, that's so smart. Maybe you can share that.
When you,
well, you're saying like you change up who you follow on Instagram.
Yeah. Okay.
The platforms that you follow.
Yep. So again, going back to Jim Rohn's quote about being the 5 people we spend the most time with, I am amazed at how much we do not pay attention to our digital tribe. I jokingly used to say this until I had several people come up to me after conferences and say, how did you know that I was that person? But I jokingly said, when so I take my phone out and I say, every 6 months I go through, I don't follow a lot of people on Instagram, but what I do follow is very closely curated to my interests and to what I am drawn to what challenges and what inspires me. I want to look through Instagram and see things that make me a better person.
Yeah.
I started following recently like a couple of science things. I was never a science person, but I'm fascinated at this stage of my life about science. And I don't so I'll give you an example. I used to follow Gary Vee. I like Gary Vee a lot. I think Gary Vee has a lot of things to say. He was incredibly instrumental at the beginning of my journey. I don't get as much from Gary Vee anymore. So if his stuff happens to come across my feed, great, but I don't follow him anymore. So I curate that feed. And what I jokingly said, I know people who follow their ex's new partner on social media. And I said, what good is possibly going to come of that? That you see that they're going to your old spot or they're going to a place that you promised each other that you would go to. Right. Either way.
Unless you're like Taylor Swift and need like material for your next song.
Right. Like, I mean, come on. And I've had so many people come up to me after I say that and they're like, I just want you to know that I stopped following my ex's new partner because you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's really a thing. But people are in our lives and things are in our lives for a reason or a season, and we grow. And there are people that I was super tight and close with at the beginning of this journey who I'm still friends with. And if I see them, we'll high five and we'll catch up. But I'm not involved in their lives and they're not involved in my life. You've
outgrown it. I think it's such a beautiful concept and it sounds so silly, stupid, but we think we are sort of victims of the algorithms and all the things we see and more is more. And I love this concept of doing it. Like I said, the metaphor to me is like cleaning out your closet and you do add new clothes, of course, but you also need to move out some of the old stuff that doesn't fit anymore.
And so there's a tool that I put together because I was a huge fan again at the beginning of this whole journey of Seth Godin's book Tribe or Tribes. And so I created this thing called a tribal inventory. And I say that there are 7 roles within the tribal inventory that we need in our lives. And the tribal inventory has 3 stages. It's the admire stage. And I would just challenge anybody who's listening to do this today because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. Do you have somebody in your life that I would call them your midnight tribe, that you can call them at midnight if things are going badly and you know that they're going to pick up the phone? Likely they know that they are that person in your life. But even if they know, and if you were one of those people, wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you want to get a text message that says, I love you. I really appreciate you. You've been a great person in my life. I will say, do it with a little bit of context. Don't just do that out of the blue, because people may think that you've lost your mind. So say like, hey, I listened to this podcast today. I was encouraged to reach out to somebody who means a lot. You're that person. So admire those people. What you'll find when you go through and put the names of people in all those different roles is that you have if you're most people, you will find that you have a handful of people doing way too many jobs in your tribe. And you will find that you have some major gaps. You'll find that you don't have anybody performing a particular role. And then a couple times this has happened when I've done some coaching, individual coaching, people go through it and they go, I don't have a tribe. I am all of these to everyone else. And so what we do is figure out who those people need to be. So you hire people, saying that in air quotes, and you ask them to be in your tribe. Now you need to let them know what that means. If you just send them a text message and say, will you be in my tribe? It sounds like you're going to, take off to some weird island and drink Kool-Aid. That's not what we're talking about. So you want to give them very clear expectations of what they're signing up for. And that may just be a conversation once a quarter or something.
Yeah.
And then here's the thing. People are like, well, if I want to hire somebody and what if they say no? My response to that is that's next to yes. That's the best answer you could get, because you don't want somebody who says yes, but then they're not going to show up for you. So if they say no, great. Then it's not a fit. Don't take it personally. Move on. There's lots of people you could have in your tribe. And then the last stage is the fire stage. And people they're like, oh, how do I fire somebody? Okay. This is not sending a text message to somebody saying you're dead to me. Unless it is, you may have somebody in your life that you need to say, like, you're dead to me. We're done. Like, I'm moving on. But I find that if you admire and hire well, it's very easy then to fire. And what I find most often is that firing isn't like this person is dead. It's that this person is playing a role. Maybe they are self-appointed into that role that they just shouldn't be in. Yeah. So you need to move them to another place. And you don't have to tell them that. You don't have to inform them. It's not something that they need to know about. You're just going to take them to a different place. And I do get the question a lot, Aaron. How do I fire my mother? That might be the subject of my second book. But yeah, I mean, parents, siblings, spouses, childhood friends, some of them have the best intentions in the world. And they're terrible tribe members, because they put their fear and their doubt and their negative experiences on the things that we're doing. And I think with good intention, but that may not be the thing that we need. It's kind of like following the new partner of your ex. Like, no good's going to come from that. And if you have somebody over and over that every time you get excited about an idea. I had one coaching client. She said, I have 5 devil's advocates and no dreamers in my tribe. And she said, so every time I have a good idea, I feel like they line up with 2x4s ready to smack the idea and me down. And she said, so guess what? I've stopped bringing new ideas, because all they want to do is shut them down. And it hurts and it's painful. And so the first thing that we did as in our coaching engagement was we found her some dreamers.
Yeah.
And devil's advocates are necessary, but they should not be in the room when you're doing brainstorming and dreaming.
I love it.
Because they're not made that way.
That's so good. And that's, cheesy as it is, that's what we're trying to create here with the Because Work Doesn't Have to Suck podcast and our Facebook group, and finding that really great mix of tribe. And what I love most is people that, especially that join our private Facebook group, they naturally select their sub tribes and connect in other ways. And it's just a beautiful thing. So glad to hopefully have you part of my tribe now, Jason.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
Been a pleasure stalking
You're in for life. You're in for life, whether you want to be or not.
Yeah. And, my hope is that, we can both be on a stage together sometime.
Oh,
lighten shit up.
Yes. Sevens unite. Sevens unite to light.
We can sing the song. I can't wait to check it out. Well, thanks again for spending your time with our group.
And, thank you for the opportunity.
Sure lighting a lot of fires with our listeners.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Aaron.
friends? Do you have other friends? Are they adults? Are they out in the world somewhere? Please, please, please invite them to listen to our podcast.
Okay, dude, you sound like a late night, like 2 a.m. infomercial. Basically, what she's saying is our love language is ratings, reviews, and sharing the podcast. We'd love nothing more. And if you would do that.